Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. A big wave of controversy emerging over the last couple of days with regard to what the Los Angeles Thieves were thinking during last season. Pred revealed a couple of days ago that during this most recent season, just a few months ago, Los Angeles Thieves were speaking to him to try and get him to join their team. The players on Thieves don't seem to know anything about this. Kenny says that he wasn't aware, Octane says that he wasn't aware. So are the general management staff and the coaches there on Thieves going behind their players' back? Would this have been an intelligent decision to try and get done? And was Pred right to say, you know what guys, I'm not going anywhere until I can sign this OpTic deal in the off-season? Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I thought this is pretty funny here. Drazah going absolutely wild on it, well, as if he's on main stage, and there'll be more of this to come for FaZe. Of course, he was on Thieves this most recent season. We'll get into that. This is also crazy. I know that people are like, oh, well, some people are like, oh, like this gun is just, I mean, I don't know why they have to go so crazy with these camos. I kind of enjoyed the camos they were back in the day, but still, this is the type of stuff that COD Mobile is up to, and it does make me frustrated. Just looking at, if you look at the COD Mobile competitive scene, the maps they play on, man, like they're playing on firing range, they're playing on raid, they're playing on standoff, they're playing on like old school maps. I think they play on Stadium from Black Ops 1, or it got remade in its Stadium, and they call it like Takeoff or something in Black Ops 2 as a DLC map. I think they play that, which is also pretty viable. It's just fantastic stuff. And they've also got things like this going on, and the developers of like the COD game that is actually released probably just can't seem to pull off anything like this. I'm not saying that the actual camo itself and all the animations is like that I care particularly about it, but it just indicates the level of you know, COD Mobile compared to what is on the regular consoles. And I've got to mention this as well because I know that I joked about it a couple of days ago now, and I said that at some point in the off season there's always some sort of Doug versus hackers drama. It happens every year. I don't know what it is. Usually it's October time that there's some storyline that emerges for a few days or a couple of weeks where Doug is calling out hackers or exposing hackers or something like this. And it seems to, it's happened like every year for the last 3 years, I think, in the off season. And he's at it again. So he tweets this out. This sounds insane, and it probably is, but I'm going to challenge myself to play Modern Warfare 2 ranked on PC against hackers until the season begins. So yeah, I guess my goal is to build my mental strength to a new level. So either you think Doug is clinically insane, or he's just doing this for good content, and I believe I could, yeah, potentially do just that. Wish me luck. So yeah, here comes this season's Doug versus hackers story, and I guess stay tuned. But let's talk about Los Angeles Thieves. We're expecting their roster to get confirmed relatively shortly. Ghosty, Cammy potentially, or maybe aBeZy, JurNii and Afro might have been confirmed by the time this video goes live, might not have. But at the start of this off-season, there were rumors going around. Like, this was the early OpTic Texas rumor, and this was a very early Los Angeles Thieves rumor. Now, of course, none of those 4 players are going to be on Thieves going forwards, and things have changed substantially since then. OpTic, if anything, kind of have the, you know, the players they wanted in part out of these 8 players, to be honest, with Kenny and Pred going OpTic's way. But Thieves early on, people thought that they might get Insight and CleanX from Ultra because there were rumors going around that Ultra were going to blow it up and they were going to sell their players. And Benjay Naseem actually explained his perspective on this, and I'll just share it for you guys in a second. Before we get to that, though, I did want to say that there were links with Pred to Thieves, right? Because it was like, okay, Pred will join OpTic, he'll join Thieves, or he'll join FaZe. That was what everyone expected before the off-season began. Most people said he was going to OpTic, which of course he eventually did, but there were some links between the two.
Were the rumors about Ultra true? Listen, y'all. Zuma said the rumors were true, and when Scott learned about that, he was happy when to leave. I mean, this is pretty spot on. The only addition I'll say to this, and I talked about this on a show, was here's the order of events that happened in Toronto. Management started making decisions about the roster without part 2 talking to players. Everybody got upset. Things started leaking. Then people actually started talking. A strategy formed. It sounds like Scrap and his management, his personal management, tried to see what interest is out there. Toronto never talked to FaZe or OpTic. Toronto made it clear that he wasn't going anywhere. They picked up Envoy. That's all the steps that I think happened this offseason.
So Ben's explanation there as to what Toronto did was kind of interesting, and I must say that it's a bit of a consistent trend at this point. For the last couple of years, there have been, like, for example, going into the Modern Warfare 2 season, when they tried, we think, to get Insight, we don't know if this is the case absolutely, but there were big rumours going around that FaZe had approached Insight and Toronto with interest to get him to be their AR player instead of Slasher, of course. Now, over time, they eventually got Slasher, and Toronto since denied that there was ever any interest in a buyout from, for Insight from that team. But most people say that there probably was, and Toronto have done it again, where they go through pretending to make changes, and then when push comes to shove, they actually don't even bother. So this seems to be what Toronto have done again, where at the start of this season, off-season, we thought they were going to make moves. Scrappy was tweeting as if his teammates were going to leave because they were going to get sold. He wanted out. He didn't want to be held hostage and all this. And then at some point, they changed their mind, brought an Envoy, and have arguably the best upgrade of the entire off-season. So it's been a pretty wild one for Toronto. But of course, it did mean that there was no CleanX, no insight to Thieves or anything. They were, they probably didn't have the money anyway to build a particularly competitive team. So Pred was obviously going to go a different direction. Now, what I will say about this whole Pred Thieves thing is that Novus, the general manager at Thieves, and has been now for the last season and going into this year as well, he was at Seattle Surge when he helped to build and pretty much built the roster with Pred on. He was the one that brought Pred into the CDL on the Seattle Surge, and then, as Pred was doing his last year on Seattle, Novus was then over at Los Angeles Thieves. So you can understand why they might be entertaining conversations or trying to get Pred to join their team on LA Thieves, and I'm pretty sure that in an ideal world, and I think Thieves were making some attempt to make this happen. Now, the question from my perspective is, how much was this known by the guys on Thieves? Here we have a new image of, Kenny and Pred in the back of some Uber. But there were some theories going around that after the Vanguard season where they'd kind of, uncharacteristically for many teams in CDL history, stuck it out and actually made it work. Yes, they brought in Shane. Yes, they swapped a couple of roles around. We talked about it yesterday with Kenny and Drazah. But they went back to back in pretty emphatic fashion. And as far as I'm concerned, they came into champs with I think if you run that champs at the time 100 times, they win 60 of those, maybe even more. I think they were that much better than the rest of the teams at the time, and it was really impressive. And it's very rare that a team pulls that off after struggling early on. They then go into the Modern Warfare 2 season though, and after their Cold War year where they made a change every couple of weeks, it seems like they decided that, they're going to stick it out, and not making any roster changes is the way forwards. But as the things went on Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2, they had a couple of bad stages. Okay, Major 2 they came second, but Major 3 wasn't pretty at all, and it might have been around this time. They won Major 4, and then at the end of the year happened, and after they won Major 4, they're not going to make a change at that point, despite the fact that especially champs was a bit of a nightmare for them, to be honest. But it was around the Major 3 time where teams were looking at moves, there were changes potentially being made, and they were struggling a fair bit here, that maybe they were looking to speak to none other than Mr. now OpTic Pred.
But yeah.
It's just nuts.
Yeah,
everyone's got a different perspective.
Super different. Because ours is we'd never thought about team changes, but it was just what can we bring? Who can we bring in to
I was actually gonna join your team as well one time last year.
Last year,
I think so.
MW2.
Yeah,
probably. That's what I'm saying.
I think I actually did. I got asked to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
But I was getting asked everywhere. I'm like, bro, I ain't going anywhere. After that OpTic thing fell through, I'm like, bro, don't ask me shit. I'm staying here until the season is done. And but yeah, my season was a bit stressful because of the whole OpTic thing that happened, and we were super inconsistent. I don't know.
They could say the vibes are fine. No, they weren't.
It should have been done way before that, though. That's the problem.
Yo, so people want me to ask this question for Sam. The chat's been coming in hot. They really want me to ask this question. Sam, was AG to LA Thieves ever a thing?
Dude, I saw him say that, and unless it was for me, I had no clue that was a thing.
You getting dropped?
Holy shit, you were dog shit.
I guess last year I was dog shit because he said last year, and I don't think there was a point last year we were thinking about changes. So I think it might have been just Cap or Shane DMing him yo, are you? What's going on? Probably during all the OpTic stuff. I don't think it was anything serious because there was no point last year we were thinking about making a change. Unless it was for me and I was getting blindsided, but I retired, so hold that.
Kenny apparently said the same thing, bro.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So it was AG just talking? What was he just talking to this guy?
No, I don't think. I thought he was just talking. I mean, I'm sure if it was anything, they probably just DM'd him yo, are you available, kind of thing. Yeah. But I don't. There was no point last year where we were talking. AG's
just chatting, bro.
So Priestahh on this Game Chat episode was leaking absolutely everything, right? And straight up said to Kenny's face that he was meant to be coming to his team. And Kenny didn't know anything about this. And if you see Shotzzy in the background, Shotzzy is like cracking up about it because he's like, damn, this guy just, you know, because if Priestahh was going to replace anyone, who was he going to replace? Like, would it not have been Kenny? Maybe, maybe not, right? As Octane said on stream, on the flank, he was like, well, you know, maybe they were replacing me. But it doesn't seem like either Kenny nor Octane, and probably neither Drazah or Envoy, potentially knew that they were doing this, which is pretty interesting, like, in a way to run your team. And it might be the best way to run your team, because the general managers and maybe the coaches, right? So let's say Novus, JKap, and Shane, they were cooking up a plot, because if they could get Pred in, get him from Surge, steal him for under OpTic's nose, I suppose, mid-season, and bring him in to Thieves for one of their players that was going to be free agents anyway, then Thieves could find a way to build around Pred for the upcoming years, and that would have been a great business move for them. He doesn't go to OpTic, Thieves managed to get him. As it turns out, they might not have had the budget to do that anyway, but it doesn't seem like if that wasn't, because I don't think Pred's making this up, right? I don't think that he's, because he said that there was like, it could have happened, it was close to happening, there was a lot of interest. Probably the general managers, JKap and all these guys, wanted it to happen. Maybe we don't know. We haven't heard their perspective. But Pred seems convinced that they wanted to do this deal and get it done. But the players on Thieves seem to have had no idea that these conversations were even happening, which is maybe the best way to do it, because if you tell your guys, like, hey, we're looking at Pred, Kenny, you might be dropped. Like, I don't think that's going to really revitalize them to be successful for the end of the season, especially if they were looking to make this move around about Major 3, and then Major 4, they went on to win the entire thing very impressively at that tournament, that kind of local studio there in Columbus. So, look, Pred probably was having interest in him from Thieves. They probably tried to make this happen. Who would they have dropped, though, in this case? Kenny, I mean, look, he has a great stage here, but Kenny was probably the weaker of the two SMGs between himself and Envoy during the season, and, I mean, yeah, Pred and Envoy would be very interesting. There's also a chance, right, as Octane says, that he was going to get dropped, maybe Kenny to one of the AR roles, Pred comes in, but at that point, I don't know that they thought that Octane was going to retire anyway. I don't think the team knew until the World Championship was over that Octane was going to retire, because if Octane had informed the team a few months ago, like, hey, this is my last year, then they might have thought, you know what, Octane, you know, we've had enough of you now. Like, let's get Pred in and try and make it work and build a team for the future if you're going to go. But I don't think they knew that anyway, so I highly doubt that's the case. And Octane was arguably, apart from Drazah's ridiculous search and destroy this event, was at this point of the season basically the MVP of this team as far as I was concerned. So it's definitely an interesting way to operate your team. I'm not sure that Octane thinks that Pred is just making it up and has brought this out of nowhere, but he's maybe semi-surprised that these discussions were ongoing despite the fact that the team itself didn't seem aware that they were potentially going to get dropped for Pred at any moment's notice. And maybe this is a good way to operate your team, but it might create some degree of paranoia going forward. Like, if you're going to be joining Thieves now for next season, is part of you not thinking, damn, are they plotting to drop me at any time? And they're talking to players without my knowledge, which, you know, which maybe is a good thing in some sense, because it keeps you, like, it keeps you pushing for more. And I think this has been a thing with teams that bring on good, solid substitute players, that the teams or the players in their starting lineup, they have to keep grinding, because they know that if they don't, they might get replaced by this hungry guy on the bench, which is probably what you want if you actually want to win events. But very much enjoyed to hear your perspective on all this in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.